Hello everyone, this is Nitin. You're watching Open Air Training Space, which is an open learning and development platform where we use a lot of openness, creativity and innovation to learn different subjects in a more innovative, creative and a joyful way. Today we are going to attempt to answer a very important question. Who is God? Everyone has a self-definition of who is God. But today we are going to learn something so much interesting about God that is going to be more general, more global and more acceptable as a solution to what definition is and what description is God belonging to. First things first, to understand God, we need to understand what are the natural characteristics, attributes, properties, or you can overall say specifications does being God mean. So let's start by asking quality questions to ourselves. When we ask ourselves that who is God, what does our brain tell us? First of all, it will tell us that God is omnipresent. Let me write it over here. Omnipresent. That means that being in a state of omnipresence means omni means everywhere and presence means to be physically or logically exist at that location. So when we try to describe God, its omnipresence means to say that God is everywhere. Now when you look at this characteristic and you try to figure out who is God, it becomes necessary but more rather not sufficient to prove our theory of who is God. So what we try to do is to figure out many different characteristics, attributes, properties and overall, as I said, specifications of being God. What does it mean? So now when I come to the second point of a second characteristic of God, I want to list it down again below this. So what I'm going to do is to write the second characteristic. Now, again, when you question yourself, what does your mind say? It also says that God is superlative to everything. That means that any point of time, He's got the supreme ability to do anything that He wants and He is on the chair. So what does that mean? There's a word for it. So that means omnipotent. That means He has all the powers, He's got all the legislation, He's got all the government and He's got all the rules which He imposes on us, and He is the supreme power of everything. So now this second characteristic along with the first characteristic, it says that omnipresence and omnipotent, that means everywhere you go and you get the exhibition of these characteristics at any point in time, at any location in the universe. Okay, so now we come to a third aspect. Now when you again try to question our brains that what does God mean, the immediate answer you get from your brain is that God is invisible. It's as simple as that. So if I write it down here, what it means specifically is that we cannot see Him, as simple as that. Or is it otherwise? That also means that the next statement is going to be true, which is the fourth characteristic, and that is nothing but God sees everyone. We cannot see God, and the reverse of it is also true, that God can see everyone. That means He's going to be an eyewitness of everything and anything. So let this be here. The fourth one, which I'm going to write, is more of a mathematical characteristic, which is nothing but God is infinite. That means He does not have a starting. He does not have an ending. And it seems so that He's ever existed. That means that He is already there in the past, He is there in the present, and He's also going to be there in the future. So combined, we now have omnipresent, omnipotent, invisible, infinite. What is it that the fifth characteristic is going to indicate? And that is nothing but independent. When you talk about God, you think about this and you get in mind that God doesn't depend on anyone. He is so much independent of everything. That means He does not need to rely on any system, any process, any person, any entity in the entire universe. He's independent of it. Let us now discuss the five next set of characteristics that represent God. So the sixth one is very simple. As I said, that He is the eyewitness for everything that happens. So let me write over here, witness, that he can see everything and he's a high witness to it. Now the seventh characteristic is very important and is associated to infinity also. So when you talk about infinity, you also talk about being here and there everywhere, no start, no end. But what does that mean on a life perspective? It also means that there is no life, no death, and that term is called eternity. So he is also eternal. That means he does not have life, he does not have death. He is the master controller of life and death of everyone. So when we talk about eternity, that is the seventh point there. And the eighth one, which is very, very important and we see in our lives here, that's a characteristic which is called as polymorphic, which is derived from the word polymorphism. Let me write it over here. Polymorphic, what does that mean? Polymorphism is nothing but the ability to take different forms and different formats and to do things. So in Hinduism, we call it as an avatar. And even in C, C++ and all these languages, we learn polymorphism, where different functions can be exhibited by same objects. Alright, so we understand and conceive God as polymorphic. That means we say that so and so person, so and so situation was so godly. That means it came to me, God came to me in this particular form or format, in a form of a person or a situation or luck or hard work or success. So we give the name of different other entities which are not actually God, the name of God. So he is coming in different forms, that is being polymorphic. Now the ninth one is absolutely simple, and it's nothing but to understand that who is controlling whom. So if you look at and you try to describe God, you essentially need to understand that yes, he is the universal controller of everything. Why I say universal is because of the time and space and the huge amount of existence of this universe. So it's enormous, and overall if you look at God, he is going to control it. We have that perception that he is the universal controller. So now I'm going to write it over here, universal controller. And the 10th point is again very simple. It is nothing but the same word carried down again, universal. So now if he is controlling everything, that means he can start, he can stop, he can pause everything. So that means that he can change everything. So being a universal controller, he also has the ability to be a universal changer. So we have all these objects in this universe, but they are susceptible to change. So the people or the person who is having this kind of an authority of actually being a game changer, that is this characteristic, that God is the universal changer. He can change anything, anyone, anytime. Let us now continue with the next set of characteristics. The 11th characteristic is very important, which is that we always in life follow something. So if you look at God, he is the one whom everyone follows. So if you want to write up this, it's nothing but everyone is following God. So what we can call it? Again, we'll use the same terminology and we'll say that he's universally followed. So I'll write it over here. Alright? That means that everyone must and should follow God and his teachings or his lessons. So that is the concept that we have, or our brain tells us. Now the 12th one is very, very, very critical because it is the one that is differentiating God from other things, and that is nothing but the ability to be unbiased. Focus on this in a very different perspective, where you have got few things to take care of, to see, to visualize, to take, but you are so unbiased that before taking the judgment, you weigh everything that you see, that you sense, without any bias of your own personality or of your own insights or knowledge or intelligence. So God has this property of being so unbiased about everything, meaning to say that he is equal to all and he has given the same thing to all, and he is in fact himself same to all. So when I talk about being unbiased, he is same to all, and he is also equal to all. Now, when we talk about the 13th principle, or the rule which comes to our mind, that yes, God is something like this, we come to the word which is, he cannot be governed, he cannot be administered, or he cannot be ruled out. So the word that comes to my mind is that he is ungovernable. Alright? You cannot go on top of God and create a government to govern him. So he is ungovernable. That is one thing. Then the 14th thing which I come across and I tell about myself is a derivation. When we talk about him being universal controller, you need to think about the other side as well. And then you come up with this, which is that obviously if he is the universal controller, we need to think of the other side. Can we control God? And the answer which comes to our mind is that no, we really cannot control him. So in that sense, he is more uncontrollable. So we really cannot control God. And the next set element is again being derivant of this concept, where we say that he is going to change and he is the universal changer. But when we question ourselves that can we change God, and then again we come across an insight which we tell us that yes, we really cannot change God. So he is unchangeable. Alright? So now when you look at all these definitions and when you look at all these things, what we are trying to do essentially is to try to understand what being God means. To continue these characteristics, then the 16th one is also so simple that we have several different times in our own lives where we try to do things and we fail. And then we keep on questioning ourselves, why God, why did you do this for me or to me? And what did I do? I'm hardly able or capable to understand him. So people find it very difficult to understand God. And that's the reason why I am quoting this as the 6th one, that is ununderstandable. The 17th one is again, as we cannot understand him, we tend to say that yes, God, I know him, he knows me, but I'm not able to explain him out. So the next 17th characteristic which I want to tell you is that he is unexplainable by some perspectives. People find it very difficult to explain God to other people. So he is unexplainable in that sense. The 18th, the 19th and the 20th one we will again discuss. The 18th one is that when you talk about creating something, you face challenges and you resolve them. But when you talk about challenging God, who is the creator of your own self, you find it very difficult, or rather more, you find it very impossible to defy God. And that's the reason why you feel like he is so incompatible and he is unchallengeable. So I can write he is unchallengeable. That means you cannot even think of going and challenging up God's creation or God's creation of nature or his universe. So that is it. And the 19th one is again a derivant, which is that he is undefeatable. That you cannot go and you cannot win against God. So that is the perspective. Now, when you look at all these 19 aspects which we try to just take as examples of how we feel who is God, we are just trying to understand from different angles, from different dimensions of life, that what could possibly being God mean. So when you look at all these 19 characteristics, the 20th characteristic which I want to mix and merge all these 19 characteristics and come up with is a combinatory principle, and which I can say that if you look at all these things, these are going beyond everything. So what I can say is that he is more unconditional. Unconditional means that he is not bounded to any condition. And it's very important to understand that the conditions in which we stay, we are bounded and limited to function within the same. And when we say that yes, God is unconditional, means that he is beyond the boundaries. and He is beyond infinity. So therefore, if we combine all these things, we can obviously come to a conclusion that yes, He is unconditional. What we have learned from all these 20 characteristics is that being God means to live out every time all these 20 values. These are 20 values. These are not limited to the values which God lives, but these are some of them which we are trying to identify. Now here we can give a full stop to understanding God or being godly. Now the real challenge starts here, where we question ourselves that beyond limiting ourselves to just constraining our speech and our body and our mind, our physiology, towards creating shorter and more narrower definitions of God, like God is this idol, or God is this culture, or God is this persona, or God is this. Can we think beyond all these constraints and try to identify something, a definition or description of God which is far more beyond any culture, any person, any bias, or anything? Can we? So that's the real challenge. So when I questioned myself and I started my research on finding who can God be and what is living up to that mark means to me, so I started finding out who is God. Then possibly when I start asking that kind of a question to my brain gives me an answer. And it says that whenever you look at everything, look at it with this perspective of finding God. And I started looking at it, everything which I saw, and I started relating to this concept on this hunt and search that who is God. Now I was focusing on several different things, but when I was associating all those things to all these parameters, or you can say specifications of being God, they were failing at some point or some criteria. You can just see these 20 values as baselines to compare anything that you want to quote out as God, and just keep on comparing. And at any point in time, if your entity which you are comparing with God and want to quote to God, you are comparing, and at any point of time, one or some or any or many or all of these characteristics do not match, remember, you need to eliminate that and carry your journey further. That means, for example, you just say that this particular thing is God. So it must be omnipresent, it must be omnipotent, that it must have all the powers, it must be invisible, it must be infinite, it must be independent, it should be an eyewitness of everything, it should be eternal, it can take many forms, and it should be universally controlling everything, it should be able to change everything, it should be something which is everyone follows to. It should be unbiased, that means it should not have any bias towards anyone, that it should be same and equal to everyone. Then it should not be able to hold this case that where it's being governed by something. So it should be ungovernable, then it should be uncontrollable, that nothing can control it, it should be like something like that. And then it should be unchangeable, that means you cannot change it. Fair? So it cannot be changed. So that is one property, it needs to suffice. Then the 16th one is ununderstandable. It should be ununderstandable, because that is what you relate to God. Fair? So you should not be able to understand it. So something which you can understand, people can understand, you cannot quote it as God. And then the further thing, you cannot be able to explain it. So that is something which should be there, whatever you're calling God as. And then it should not be explainable, it cannot be challenged. So something which can be challenged, it's out of the game. So okay, so 19th one, undefeatable, that means something which you cannot conquer, it should be something like that. And the last one, it should not have any conditions, so it should be unconditional. So to come up with such a certain definition or description of God, it took me a lot of not time, but a lot of focus and a lot of questioning to my own self and to my society. And it made me think. Even I bothered some of the people, intellectuals, people having common sense, and I tried to figure it out, that how can I get something very concrete and something which is more conceivable to all the people here, to understand a certain definition of God and to live by it, and it is not biased to any religion, any culture, anything. It's not biased. So now let me come to this straight away, that who is God? any guesses to what can I say at this point in time? I'll just write down those two words which are in combination God.
So this is going to be really interesting. So let me put down my hand to tell you what exactly is the conclusion of all this. Let me write down straight on top what is the first part of God. Yes, you are all correct. It's time. Can you guess how much of meaning does it make when you compare time to all these 20 characteristics? Okay, let us discuss it after a point of time. But I want you to just brainstorm on what could be the second completing element of God. That is a bigger challenge. I am giving you 5 seconds to think of it. No? Let me come to it. Okay, that is nothing but truth. Yes, you're right. Truth. When combined, time and truth make God. And it is scientifically, philosophically true. If you notice that you put time and truth in all of these conditional criterias, it would suffice every aspect of every criteria. Let us start by gelling time and truth, and then one by one let us understand of what we mean when we say that time combined with truth is God. Time in itself and truth in itself is omnipresent. That means time is present everywhere, and truth, yes, truth about anything is present everywhere. The second aspect is omnipotent. That means someone who is having eternal power to govern and control everything can be determined as time and truth, the combination of which can be definitely said that yes, they are far more powerful than anything else in this universe. The third thing is invisibility. Yes, time. Yes, your watch is a representation of time. The clock, the wall clocks, everything is representation. But have you ever seen time? You cannot see it because it's invisible. You really cannot see time because time is a concept. It's just going on. Same thing about the truth. Can you see truth? Yes, you can see representations of truth in different forms. But can you see truth? No, you cannot. The next one is infinity. That you focus on and just think about how time and truth are infinite. That means that they are not limited. They are just infinite. What I mean by that is that on a time scale, on a number scale, if you draw these lines and try to question yourself that is time starting somewhere? You really don't know. And is it going to end somewhere? You even don't know. And then we can prove that yes, time is endless. Even that is a fact about truth. Truth about anything, any situation, circumstance or a person is going to be infinite. You cannot measure it. There is no way to count the amount of truth that you can speak. Essentially, it is making it so much huge, it's so much vast enough that there is no way out that you can actually numerically calculate time and truth. In some time and truth are also independent of everything and anything. Imagine about it. You can depend on time and truth. But is the reverse true? No, it's not. Time does not depend on anything. It is independent as well as truth. Can you go and depend upon it? Yes. But the inverse? Question about. So yes, independence is one attribute that is qualified. Next, eyewitness. Yes, you look at the entire era of your ancestors. Now you look at yourself and you also look at all the successors that you're going to have. But can you witness time? What of a question, because time is witnessing you. Time has seen your grandparents, it is seeing your parents, it is seeing you. It is going to see your children and their children and so on and so forth. Even that is the case true with truth. eternal and is going to be an eyewitness itself for everything that happens. Seventh one obviously is eternal, that you don't know when did time actually start, and you don't know when did actually the truth started and where it will go, what is the time span. You really don't know, so it's going to be eternal. Polymorphic, yes, time and truth are taking different forms. That means your watches, the truth that is shown up, it is all represented in different ways. That means you have different kinds of ways in which you can tell time and show time, as well as you can have different file formats, you can have some gesture formats of telling the truth. Fair enough? So that is about polymorphic. Ninth one is universal controller. You, I, us cannot control time. We cannot control truth. In fact, we are controlled by time and truth. Whatever you say, and that is so huge that it has no impact on these two elements. In fact, we ourselves are influenced and impacted by time and truth. Universal changer. Yes, time changes us, and it has to. And there is no bias about it. It is changing us because it can control us. That is the relation between it. Moving forward, you see that on the 11th side, you have universally followed. Look at it, time everyone has to follow. They must have to follow, and they in fact follow it. Even fact lies that when you talk about truth, everyone has to abide to it. They have to follow it with their heart. They like it, they don't like it, but they have to follow time and truth. So it's universally followed. 12th one, unbiased, same and equal to all. So you talk about the greatest person whom you love or like, even he or she might have had only 24 hours a day, same as you have. So that is the same amount of time that God gives you. Time is giving you and everyone the same amount of itself. And truth, yes. Even if I say that this pen, holding this pen is the truth, so it is true for you, it is true for me, it is true for everyone. So time and truth are equal and same for everyone. Then you come to 13th, which is ungovernable. You cannot govern time. By stopping your own wristwatch, you cannot say that the time has stopped. Or just by hiding off the truth, by some piece of your speech or with an object, you cannot say that now the truth is false. It's already there and it cannot be governed. And 14th one, uncontrollable. That you cannot control, as I said, it controls everything. It cannot be controlled. If you can control time, you would be the God. Time controls everything. Truth controls everything. In that fact, if we think we are the successors of these most biggest ancestors, and these are the root reasons behind what this topic is all about. Then again, 15th one is unchangeable. That you cannot change or alter, add, modify or delete time or truth. What is the truth is the truth. You have to accept it and then think about doing something to it. Time, yes, obviously you cannot change it. No one can change it. In fact, time changes us. That's the reason. Then you have 16th one, which is ununderstandable. That you cannot really understand what time will do to you and what truth will do to you, because you fairly take time to figure out what exactly that time is, because now I say the time is 1:40, now 1:41, and it keeps on moving, so you really cannot understand the combination of time and truth occurring in this fast moving universe, because now both of them are coming together, so it's pretty much ununderstandable. By the time we take action, we are just conquered away by time. It is unexplainable. You cannot really explain the concept of time or truth to anyone. You really cannot, because the more you try to speak about it, the more general it becomes, and the more wider it becomes, and then it goes unexplainable. 18th one, unchallengeable. You undoubtedly cannot challenge time or truth, because time and truth in fact are so concrete and real and are so supreme that hardly there is a point in going out and challenging it for any subject. 19th one is undefiable, undefeatable in fact. So you really cannot go out and have a battle with time and truth, because time is giving you birth. it's going to take you away from this earth. Same as truth. The truth that you are what you are is going to be there. You can obviously change yourself, but what is there is going to be there. The truth is eternal. Fair? So it cannot be defeated by any one of us, because they are the master players of this entire universe. 20th one, which is a combination of all these principles of properties which we combined and we thought about, that when we talk about God, it's more of unconditional stuff. And when you put in values that say time and truth, obviously there is no condition to it. They do not follow any conditions. They have their own conditions which they give as a government for us to live in. The life of rules, regulations and all these things are governed by time and truth. Imagine it as a concept where I draw a small pyramid and you baseline all your communication, all your actions and all your thinking process onto the God. That means time and truth. So when you baseline this, what would happen? Let me draw it and tell it to you. It would look something like this. It's a 3-floor pyramid where what I'm trying to say is that all the communication that you do, all the actions that you take and all the thoughts which come to your mind are actually baselined on God. That means, first of all, you're taking into consideration the time, and the second aspect which you're going to focus on before delivering the communication, those actions or the thought processes are truth. So now you got the game. Because whatever you're going to say or read or write, however you're going to act in this life, or whatever you're going to think about, you are baselining and you're redefining your framework, your model of the world, by considering time first, and then the truth at that time second, and then you're deriving your communication items, your action items, and your thought items. Imagine how beautiful would life get when we all follow this model, because when you're baselining all these things which you do on a regular basis, on a daily basis, to create the kinds of perfection or the perception of about educating yourself or learning something new, you have to be baselined with something which is so strong enough. And something that is so strong has to be more real, so that you can realize your dreams and your inner potential. So now, when you talk about time and truth, you are baselining all your communications, all your actions, and all your thoughts to God. Imagine if God is baselined. That means if I say this, nothing else but God. Imagine how would life be? That you are supported and ever baselined with God. So you really cannot de-align your focus. It can be your communication, it can be your thinking process, it can be your acting process. When you baseline yourself to God, that means there is no way out that you're going to go off track, because already you're in that time and you are holding the truth about that particular time with your own situations, with your own circumstances, and with your own performances. So when you baseline yourself to godliness and you derive everything on top of it, there are very rare chances into which you can actually fail. Let me prove it to you. In India, here we have a very, very well-known phrase which is printed on every coin, which is called as "May only the truth triumph." That is said as Satya Meva Jayate. Now when you talk about people who have derived such kind of a simple statement, what they want to prove is the real question. They're trying to prove that truth is the master of the masters of the masters, and time is something which is again the same. It's the master of all the masters. So may only the truth triumph. Now look at it. Shall the truth need to triumph? Obviously no. It's got no need to go out and battle with someone and prove that it is right, because it itself is right. So this concept of time and the concept of truth when I think about why not synergize them, the meaning of synergy is simple, where the combination of two elements when put together and functioned is far more greater than the individual performances or functions of these two entities separated and then functioned and seen. So when you synergize time and truth, and when you notice how it functions, it creates tremendous results, it creates desirable and dreamed results. And when you look at all these great people who have achieved so much in their lives, for example, when I'm talking about our own nation, India, and you talk about Satyameva Jayate, which is truth, may truth only triumph. What I again remember of is our own Mahatma Gandhi ji, where he is known for his core values. And these values, imagine how could such a person create such a value system which is so much followed everywhere. And people start following him, and one person's dream is becoming the entire nation's dream, and which is helping him fight corruption and violence everywhere without even having Android mobile phones, without even having the newsletters or newspapers. Okay, so let us understand how great men achieve whatever they are great at. So if you use the same model and you draw a pyramid, as I said, the baseline of all these things must have been time and truth. So imagine all these core values which one exhibits in order to cultivate this a beautiful culture of appreciation and non-violence will be based on time and the truth which hold it at that time. So meaning to say, when you talk about the moral values which were demonstrated by Mahatma Gandhi, one of which is, let's say, non-violence as a core value, it was based on the time at that particular duration and the truth that someone did violence at that particular time has influenced these core values to come into existence. So when you look at the time, that the time frame was between 1920 to 60. Maybe that's the era in which things happened. And the truth was that someone was doing the opposite of what was the core value which was given into picture. So there was the violence in particular that time. So now what one can do is to understand the time in which he stays or lives, understand the truth which is holding true in that particular time duration, and then derive what we call as the communications, these actions and these thinking abilities that we have. So when you have the time period and you have someone doing the violence and you come up with a communication, you come up with a thought process, and then you take action. And then these actions are nothing but the list of all those 7 to 8 core values which one is deriving based on these facts. Because these facts, which are time and truth, are extensively reliable. You can just go and depend upon them because those are true and those are time based. So definitely whatever you come up with over here, they are going to be strong enough, they are going to empower you to go and not only get your dreams realized, but to empower yourself, enlighten yourself, educate yourself in such a way that is going to be more sustainable, it's going to be more long term, and it's going to be more cherishable, more joyful. So the meaning of putting anything on top of this particular small pyramid is to help you understand that the importance of time and the combination of truth with that particular time is going to create that God particle in you. That means that whenever you're going to combine all your actions, you need to be very cautious and careful that you need to revise it, because you would not want to waste your precious amount of efforts, energy, time, focus, your concentration on doing stupid things, on talking stupid things, on just going on doing things which are not going to yield anything. No use, no fruits. So what you're going to focus on is not on being busy. It's about how you can be far more productive than being busy. So if you can align all these communications, what you do, your actions and thoughts, to the time and truth, and then derive, revise and then devise that will help you to contribute immense amount of your participation, of your performance in your society in such a way that not only you're going to get the success, you're going to get one step, something which is far more beyond it, and that is something which I call is satisfaction. So beyond being successful, we would all want the satisfaction of our lives, that the purpose of us being here, the purpose of existence is served. So revise back, and when I talk about time and when I talk about truth, when I said the combination makes real sense, it can also be related in this way, that a particle which is on the left side, say for example this left bird is time and this is truth and this is you. So the combination of two God elements and you in the center. Imagine you are as small as a small personality, but your performance is based on time and truth. So those are huge, those are incalculable. Those themselves are giving you the wings. Because hey, we are humans, we cannot fly. We can only fly if we have our wings. And these birds are essentially the wings of our work. Those are themselves the work that we do. So it should be more time based, and it should be more based on the truth which is holding at that particular time, which will allow us to get the left wing and the right wing and start flying in the air. That's the meaning which I am supposing to give. Because it's a project, it's a proposal. Beyond it, it is being which matters rather than doing. Because doing is action. Being is existence. That means doing has to be proven. And being, on the other hand, needs no proof, because it's already itself a proof that it is existing at that point of time with that truth. So when you revise your definition of what is God and you align a combinatory definition which is so much concrete, and it is so much easy to justify even a small kid who is born to someone who is just grown up to 80s or 90s, that's the reason why I am coming with this particular first video of talking something about God. The reason why is because God is more general, more global, and more understandable to every other human being which we see. And it's needed that today we not convert but integrate. That means connect ourselves with our God. And there is no point in claiming or giving out communications where we are trying to fight with each other. This is God, or I suppose these are the moral values which my God gives me. Why fight? We are all so beautiful. It's time not to convert, it's time to connect. Because if I say that I break this into two pieces and I say, okay, let's create the God out of it, and I say, okay, this religion or this culture needs to now convert to this culture. How could it be? Because what function this can do, this cannot, and what this can do, this cannot. So when we talk about the violence that happens, when we talk about all the illiteracy, the inflation or the recession which is striking up to us and we really cannot do anything about it, the question we need to ask ourselves is, where is God? And when you ask where is God, you just ask yourself, where is time, where is truth? So based on the time in which you are and based on the truth that is holding true at that time, you then devise your framework of your thought process, and then you start communicating about it, and then you derive your action items. That how you can improve living out a culture and giving out a culture which is so powerful, so potential, that it not only will change me, it will change we. Because when you talk about it, me is just a reflection of we. That means what the self has an understanding and realization of, so will God help you, and then it will help you cross the barrier of me, then step on to another world which is nothing but we. There you are. So what is the conclusion and what is the solution to everything? It's on the board. So God is nothing but time and truth. There is no point in we dividing each other. Brotherhood will create when we connect to each other, not convert from this to that. And today when we live in a society where everyone is going into globalization with a lot of privatization and a lot of individuality coming into picture, individual objects, individual opinions, individual dominance, individual everything. So we are in the world at a corner where we need to really focus on taking different things in new perspectives, trying to devise something which will help us connect, but not to divide. Because the more you keep on dividing everything, the more ownership will get divided, the more legislation will get divided, and the more entities will get divided. They will start empowering each other. And does it make any sense? For example, you have a vehicle just on the road and you have 4 people, and they all are so divided, they're not united, they're not connected, they're converting from each other. Some guy is saying that yes, I want to just pull this, someone wants to push it, someone wants to just stay, someone wants to just help the other guy. Imagine in such a system where everything is divided, and God, will it help? No, God will help. So it's time for us to understand that the combination of time and truth can be used to not convert but connect to other things which are there. You cannot compete with this fact that the underlying principles using which we can derive and justify that time and truth are real God. And don't, based on silly simple discussions or forums, try to negotiate or debate or have conversations with each other which are just nothing but going to waste your time, your energy, your effort, and not going to move the vehicle anywhere. Instead, if we can focus our entire energy to help and support and learn each other, to connect to each other and try to understand what the other culture has got to offer to me, what the other religion has got to offer to me, and invite and connect and start a systems flow where we can share the communication, the actions and thoughts being one, it would really help out. Because what the other can do, we may not be able to, and what we can do, they may not be able to. So it's time now to stop converting and start connecting everything. And it's time now, with this complicated and complex world in which the technology at one side, people at the other side, the dominance of the politics and the government at the 4th, 5th, and all these things at all its sides, we are trapped out at finding our future, and it's very difficult to tear into it, because we cannot live out with something which is so false. So we need to have a base so strong and it's so unbiased, so that we can be unbiased of any culture, any religion, anything, and start looking at how we can integrate, not divide, so that we can use the maximum of our abilities. Not only that, but connect to other capabilities and derive meaning and significance from their part as well. So my intention behind doing this video is very simple. It is to request and it is to invite all kinds of recommendations, feedbacks, critics, compliments, questions, arguments, in such a way that can we create a world, maybe it's a proposal now, but today it will be realized. Can we create a world where we connect to each other and we help solve each other's problem by being based on scientific theories and not by just assumptions and beliefs that we just take as considerations and come up with our dreams and we fail to realize them. So this is a great opportunity for me to end up this small session here, and I am very glad to tell you that for giving me this time of honor of yours, which is this, again, your time, and the truth which holdeth that you saw me up till this time. I am really honored and really privileged. I'm really feeling very good and glad today, because I was thinking of making this video, but something was stopping me. But today I have broken these barriers and I'm connecting to you, not converting, I'm connecting to you. So this moment, I request all of you to be open and start flying. Thank you for watching. See you next time.